Hi, I'm Ian Campbell, and you're listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I am a keynote speaker, a strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. I meant to get this episode out earlier, but now's the right time to get that value. You're struggling to make sales, and you know it. When meeting with prospects, you routinely challenge them to move to the next step in the sales process, but they're still not moving with you or buying. You're good at showing them your product's features, but that's not helping to close deals. Maybe the secret sauce, if you will, is putting value into the entire sales process. Some simple changes in the way you speak, they bring you more leads, more sales, and happier customers. The question is, are you making a value sale? Glad to finally welcome Ian Campbell, the CEO of Nucleus Research, a recognized expert on ROI and TCO analysis of technology, and the author of The Value Sale, How to Prove ROI and Win More Deals. And on this episode, we will discuss pushing customers versus providing value, total cost of ownership, reshaping the sales funnel, the discussion of value, the overcomplexity of ROI, payback, metrics, diving in Florida, curiosity, flying, alligators in bathtubs, lecturing in college, and a lot more. So let's tune into a value author with a value shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Ian Campbell, welcome to A Shark's Perspective. If you would, tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date.
Hey, Ken, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. So I've been in the tech industry for a long time, since feels like the beginning of time, and I've been running Nucleus Research now for over 20 years. Nucleus is a company that looks at value. So we're like any other management consulting research firm. We look at the tech industry, but we really focus on, does something deliver value or not? And our perspective is really, what I like to say is, we hate everything equally. So we don't like or dislike anything. We just look at everything with a skeptic's mind and say, was it worth it or not for somebody to do it? I used to teach at Babson College, but have since moved to Miami. So now I've been doing a class at Florida International University, just there last night. And have do a bunch of other hobbies here. Scuba diver, I know you are as well. Fly airplanes around South Florida, which tends to be a fun activity for me. But value is the core part of what we do, and it's been a core focus of mine for now 20 plus years.
Well, let's dive in and talk about the book. The concept of this book, or at least the timing of it, probably better said, is great. It's like perfect timing. We're in an economy, obviously, where people are having to justify purchases more than they used to do, whether it's at the consumer level or it's B2B. And a lot of companies don't explain the value well enough at all. And that simply, obviously, makes sales a little more challenging. But let's talk about your new book, The Value Sale, How to Prove ROI and Win More Deals. Talk a little bit at a high level about the book and why you chose to share this idea.
Well, just exactly what you pointed out, which is, I think, in the last decade, if you will, sales have really focused on, how do I push the customer to the next stage in the funnel? And I think we're reaching a point where we really need to guide the customer through that value discussion. The example I really start out with in the book is my alligator example. If I told you that you could make money raising baby alligators in your bathtub, would you do it? Of course, the right answer is, how much money am I going to make, right? And there is a number above which you're in. And there's a number probably higher than that, above which your spouse says you're a genius. And even if this is the only place that you can raise baby alligators, your only bathroom, and that they have to go down the street to the gym and use their shower for the next year, they're still okay. There's a number above which they're still okay with it. Now, the point here is...
Well, now let me stop you here, because you didn't talk as much about the gym as the example you used was having to go down the street to the gas station bathroom.
Right. Yeah. Even if you have to use the gas station bathroom, you're still going to do it above a certain number. And the point isn't that you should be raising baby alligators in your bathtub. The point is that I didn't tell you anything about the product. I didn't push you to buy the product. The only thing I did was frame for you the value of raising baby alligators, and you drove yourself through the funnel. You said, hey, Ian, can I have a batch of baby alligators? And by the way, can I have a second batch because my uncle wants to do it? Maybe a third batch because my brother's feeling like you are going to buy as many batches of baby alligators from me as possible if I show you that you're making money by doing that. And really, what we're taking is that sales funnel that I used to push people through and say, if I just show value, they're going to drag themselves through. All I need to do is lay out those steps and say, here's what it's going to cost. Here are the areas of benefits, and here's the positive ROI you're going to get. And you're bought in. You're going to go forward. I don't have to say, look at all the things we do. There's no shiny object syndrome, if you will. I don't have to talk about all the features. I mean, of course I do. But if I start with value, it makes the rest of the discussion so much easier. So we're going from sort of, that old style of pushing the customer to the next stage to this new age where I need to be able to show value. And another important point of that is the more I show value, the easier it is for your prospect to then turn around and ask for money. Because I'm not selling to a decision maker. I'm selling to someone who has to get money from someone. And what's that discussion sound like? It's usually, why am I doing this again? Oh, we're going to save 20% of our electricity cost? Absolutely, that's fine. I'll do that. It's not, it does something. I don't want to know the list of features. I want to know how much it's saving me or how much more productive my folks are going to be.
I'm really finding a lot of the discussions right now and conversations I have with people. Well, I find it very welcoming when they challenge me a little bit to talk about the value, because what I'm starting to see, this is with a lot of companies right now, is how often people talk about the dollars being more real to them than they were before. And used to be that people would spend like a drunken sailor and everything was bought off emotion and there wasn't a lot of justification. And now things have changed. But I'm curious, since you work for a research group, what type of research you relied upon to write the book? Because this went beyond just your beliefs and emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working with salespeople for a very long time in talking about value. And I just got off a call today with the sales team on understanding a value message around their product. So we've been doing it for 20 years. And in doing that, we've gathered a lot of data for what wins and what doesn't win in a deal. For example, one of the topics that a lot of people talk about is TCO. Hey, we should talk about total cost of ownership. Turns out that's a terrible idea. Because when people talk about introduce TCO, they talk about cost. When they talk about cost, the natural way to increase my TCO is to ask for a bigger discount. So almost every single time that somebody brings up TCO in a discussion, they then talk about discounting. Discounting becomes an issue in the discussion. If you talk about value first, you don't get into that discounting discussion. So we've taken all of that and started to bring all that feedback after working with people and then looking back at what the results were after 2 decades now of doing it. We're able to come up with what we think are some of the best practices, and all of that really crystallized down to the value sale in the book. So it was all of that research over all those years and training all those salespeople that really led to the book coming out.
Well, a typical sales funnel generally doesn't call out value as the way you propose it. I mean, I think when most people even think of any sort of sales funnel, they'll probably start out at even some awareness to action typical funnel. Talk about how you're proposing reshaping that funnel, if you will, with adding value to those concepts.
Yeah, Kenneth, great question. So if you look at the typical sales funnel today, and we all know that funnel, it has some basic stages: bring a lead in, qualify the lead, align the proposition, deliver a proposal, close the deal, on various stages around that in some way, depending on my company. And value we see a lot of people that will put value in as a point in that funnel. Oh, when you get to the bottom, talk about a business case, or talk about it at the beginning. And usually, what happens is salespeople become afraid to talk about it. Yeah, it's numbers. I don't know. We've already got the customer to the end. Let's see if we can close it without talking about ROI. So we see a lot of salespeople who are afraid to insert it into the funnel. And what you really should do is think about the funnel as having two sides. There's one side that you already know, that those stages that you've been using every day. The other side of the funnel is the value side. And the value side has 3 stages. The first stage at the very top is, how do you deliver value? So you bring a customer in, you qualify a lead, you talk about all the different ways you deliver value. The second stage is you start to align that proposition. You start to talk to the customer about the different things that you can do for that particular customer. That's where you bring in other companies like them that have achieved value. So stage 1, how do I deliver value? Stage 2, how have other people like you achieve value? Stage 3, how will they achieve value? Really write down that business case. So think about the funnels having 2 sides. I go to stage 1, I go to stage one on the value side. I go to stage two. I go to stage two on the value side. I go to the close. I show the value. And as long as you're going back and forth between those two sides, you're very likely to drive that customer through the funnel, help pull that customer through the funnel where they can see the reason why they should buy, the value to buying. So big picture, how other people have achieved value, how they will achieve value. Don't get to the end and throw a business case out there. You haven't set it up yet. You're throwing out a business case, you're throwing out terms that they don't know. Use those terms early on. So start talking about value. And it's relatively easy to do if you use value at the beginning of the discussion, not at the end.
Why do you think they don't look at that way? And I know we sort of preach and teach a lot of this with talking about how buyers rely on emotion heavily. But when you clarify what the needs are of the buyer versus the conversation the seller thinks they should have, those too often don't align. Right. I am much more to the belief that the customers are thinking value first, even if they do buy on emotion. But to your point earlier, the salesperson doesn't necessarily want to bring that up in the discussion, which you would find hard to believe, I guess, in that.
I think there are a couple of reasons why. I think you've got a lot of companies now that have value teams. And while I like the idea of a value team, value is a discussion. You don't need an expert to come in to build a business case. If you do, more times than not, you're making a mistake. You're making more out of this than you should. Yes, there will be situations where you need to build an in-depth business case and bring an outside team. But we've turned ROI into this sort of magic thing that takes a lot of effort, and it really isn't. It's a lot easier than we make it out to be, but people become afraid of it. Also, we do a lot of sales training. But when we do sales training, rarely do they do ROI training. It's almost always product training. Let me tell you all the features it does, but they don't do how does it deliver value for the company. And here's an interesting thing. I can only do three things for a customer. I can either increase productivity, reduce cost, or as a byproduct of those two, I can increase profit. That's it. That's all I can do. So everything you sell just does those three things. So we talk about features, but we never say, hey, we generated this, we created this new human interface because we wanted to increase the productivity for our salespeople. Or we're now doing this as a SaaS delivery model because we want to reduce the cost of IT. So we never link the feature to the actual benefit. And even when you see those feature benefits things, it's usually a feature and a restated feature. It's never really a benefit. The benefits are only those three. So because we make it into more than it needs to be, people think, well, ROI is this difficult thing. You already know ROI. If you've walked into any bank and put money into a CD, you understand the ROI equation. Put money in, get 10% back. I know it's a 10% ROI. I know what that calculation is. It's not that hard. We're trying to make it into more than it is. So salespeople can often be afraid that this is going to be a process when really it's just a discussion. And for most of the sale, it's just a discussion around, let's talk about the benefits you're going to get. Let's think about what the magnitude of those benefits will be. It can be a real casual conversation, but we make it into more than it needs to be.
Well, to the concept of the three things you were talking about, lean back on the example, especially in the B2B space with MarTech. The IT people view the value a different way. The marketing people value it a different way. Your finance people value it a different way. But they all share the same concept of wanting to understand the value of it and the ROI of it. And that's why I liked a lot of what you were talking about in the book, because it's, again, such an important way to reshift some of the conversation. But let's talk about prepping for the meeting, because I like this chapter later on, and the questions for the elevator ride. How should a salesperson think through the preparation of explaining value, excuse me, in their quick sales pitch?
Yeah. So ROI, when you walk into any deal, think about two things. Think about breadth and repeatability. How many people will I touch and how often will I touch them? The more people I touch, the more often I touch them, the greater the potential ROI. Now, I'm using touch in the form of technology, but let's say I'm selling a combine, right? I'm farming corn or something. So I'm only going to touch one farmer, it's one combine. So how do I increase repeatability? Well, maybe that person is going to use it more times. Or breadth, maybe a broader field. So everything has breadth and repeatability. The more often I use something, right, and the more people that use it, or the more broadly it's used, the greater the potential ROI. So when I walk into any deal, just quickly go, does this deal have a high breadth and repeatability? If it does, the ROI is likely going to be very easy for you. If it doesn't, the ROI is going to be difficult. And it's not the product, it's the deal. So if we think about a CRM system, I walk into a customer that has 1,000 salespeople, high breadth, they'll use it every day, high repeatability. If I walk into a customer that has one salesperson, same product, different potential outcome because they don't have as many people using the product. And you sort of intuitively know it, but think about how can I increase breadth? Could I get more people to use my product in this company? Could I point out how managers can use it or how sales support can use it? Even though there's only one salespeople, there might be 4 or 5 other people that could get advantage out of it. So as I'm prepping for the deal, think about let's increase breadth and repeatability as much as we can, and that will increase my ROI if I think I'm going to have trouble with that. If it's not going to work out, it may not work out, in which case your only choice may be to discount more to try to make the value message better. But at least you're prepared for that as you walk in and know which way to go.
You talk a lot about the financial metrics and some pitfalls, I guess, is say it that way, to avoid in your presentation. I started thinking as I was reading through that, really even how your procurement team may look at this in the sales process. The committee that maybe is evaluating an ERP system, for example, versus the way procurement justifies it for CFO could be completely different. So how do you build in that value with the right kind of financial metrics to make that group happy? And I don't know if you could tell, but I've had to do this multiple times.
Sure.
To corporate teams I've worked with. So it's why I love this. It's a juicy topic and trying to please everybody in the process anymore.
It is, and one of the challenges with finance is everybody thinks they're right, and very few of them, it's a lot of people really aren't, but don't want to be told that. Yeah, look, what I like to say is the most important thing you can use for anything is payback. Payback period is how long until I cover my costs. Now we're talking about benefits. We can talk about benefits in a few minutes, but if we talk about the benefits, we get the customer to understand what their payback period is, how long until they cover the cost. Everybody can feel that. So if I told you that, hey, this new product will cover its cost in 4 months, I know what that feels like. If I say this new product has a 300% ROI, sort of intellectually know it, but I don't know. If I say the internal rate of return is 328%, well, now I'm really confused. I don't know what the heck that means. So the way to simplify everything is always lead with payback, no matter who you're talking to. And then think about that person. The finance person is going to want to know ROI. Now, there are metrics that are terrible, NPV, IRR, a lot of metrics out there you hear, but there are two metrics that have been around since the beginning of time. How long till I cover my cost, and what's the return of my investment? Is it worth it to go outside? And it's my example in the book. I'm a cave person. I want to go out and hunt. Is it worth it or not? How cold is it? What's my likelihood I'm going to get eaten by something? That's a return on investment. How hungry am I? What's my likelihood I'm not going to make it back? That's an ROI question. And cavemen knew that in the beginning. That was written on cave walls. So those two metrics have never changed. Everything else is new. So ignore all the new stuff because it doesn't mean anything. But those two have stood the test of time. So whenever you're talking to someone, you can cut through all of the different ways to approach it by saying, look, cover your costs in X amount of months or a year and a half, or whatever it's going to be. And the average annual return on investment is whatever it is. And if you focus on those two items, you're likely to get everybody to agree no matter how they look at it. Sure, some people want NPV, some people want different metrics. And in the book, we talk about all those metrics and how to approach those. And, there's some ways to game a lot of that, which is why I don't like those metrics. But if you've got to do it, do it. You use those metrics. But ROI and payback always first. And you'll be able to cut through any decision makers' hesitation.
So I particularly enjoyed chapter 11 when she kind of explained at a high level, how does marketing deliver value?
Yeah, one of the best ways is to understand the benefits that you deliver really in we talk about the different types of benefits, and I talk about benefits as being sort of, first, second, third, and fourth order benefits. But the more marketing can address those benefits and say, here's a feature and here's how it drives to a benefit, tying everything you talk about, what you do, to how it increases productivity, reduces cost, increases profitability. The more you do that, the more you make it easier for the salesperson to start with, hey, you know what? This new product is going to help you reduce your cost. And let me show you all the different ways. The marketing material talks to that. So the more marketing can support that message, the better off you're going to be. But understanding what benefits are good and what benefits are bad, sort of a key to how do I create a good marketing message or not. Some things are just marketing, and they seem like benefits, but they're actually meaningless when it comes to the business case. So understanding whether something's a good benefit or not is really important for marketing.
Well, Ian, I ask everybody that appears on this show, and since you live in the Miami area and you're a diver, what is your favorite kind of shark and why? Have you encountered many in your diving exploits?
Yeah, over the years, I've been diving for a long time. So, you have some sharks, as you know, kind of some that are curious and some that are distant. And I watch the curious ones more carefully. I've had more than a few incidents, but for me, it's the standard reef shark that you see in the Caribbean when I'm on a wall dive, and there's just one of those sharks out just outside of your eyesight. It's sort of nice to watch them as they go along a reef, either below you or slightly above you, and get a little bit curious, but not too curious. So.
I love Caribbean reef sharks. But yeah, to your point about curiosity, a good bull shark or a tiger shark is extremely curious, and you really have to watch out for them because of their curiosity, and they have some powerful bites if you don't watch out for that curiosity.
I'd rather they not decide they didn't want to eat you after they've taken a
Yes.
chunk.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to tell anybody I don't taste good before they take a bite. So,
That's right.
well, Ian, it's that special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I'm ready.
All right. So you moved from Boston down to Miami. Sports teams in Boston or the sports teams in Miami?
Boston. Boston. I got to stick with Boston. I still have that accent. When I say Boston, it's with a Boston accent. So, still a Red Sox fan. Patriots, I'll give you, but yeah, I can't not be a Red Sox fan.
All right. Number 2, what do you enjoy more, being a pilot or being a diver?
Pilot. I've been doing that for a very long time, and I've been flying for a long time. You can't beat that late night turning on to final, seeing all the lights on a runway. It's just sort of magical.
Number 3, alligators or crocodiles?
Boy, it's hard sometimes to tell the difference. Crocodiles have the pointy noses, and alligators have the round noses. So I do know that, but I think I'm more of an alligator fan.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Florida, you got to kind of be a gator fan to
Yeah.
at least appreciate it. But crocodiles are bigger and not native to our part of the world, but they show up way too much now in Florida, and especially in the Everglades, people dumping them out. It's crazy.
That and boa constrictors now too.
Number 4, being a CEO or being a lecturer at a college?
A lecturer at a college. I like being a CEO, but there are parts of that job that's administrative. And being a lecturer at a college, you're in the front of a class and you get to see the light bulbs go off and change the direction or give people new ideas. I absolutely love doing that, and we'll do that forever.
Yeah, worst thing is you give somebody a bad grade. You never have to fire somebody for underperforming in a class, So there's a lot more fun in being a lecturer.
Even a bad grade, they know it, and you've helped them to get better no matter what it is. So any grade is a good grade if someone's moved forward by a step. And what I say is, I just need 1%. If I can get somebody forward 1% each day, then in 100 days I've won. And that's all I need to do. And company on the other hand, as always, you never get good mail when you're a CEO.
All right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread.
Easy answer. Okay.
Yeah, I would say biscuits, being a New England kind of guy, but now that I'm in the South, it's cornbread all the way. So.
All right. So, Ian, where can people find out more about you, get a copy of the book, find out about Nucleus Research and more?
So Nucleus Research, come to Nucleus Research. We have lots of research on the tech industry, but the value sale is where you can find information on the book and a lot of background on these metrics we've talked about. What are good benefits? What are bad benefits? How do I approach it? How can I cheat with IRR in a way? So there's a lot of great articles up there that you can use. The value sale is on Amazon. Please take a look, give me a review if you like it. But at any time, you can always reach out to me at Ian at Nucleus Research. I always try to answer questions from folks who send me emails. So I will absolutely, I love doing that more than I love most of the job day to day. So please feel free to reach out.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Kenneth, thank you very much. Really appreciate you having me on.
So there was my conversation with Ian Campbell, the CEO of Nucleus Research, a recognized expert on ROI and TCO analysis of technology, and the author of The Value Sale, How to Prove ROI and Win More Deals. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, typical sales funnels don't call out value, but if we reshape it, then we can think about the funnel having 2 sides. One side has the normal stages we know, the other has how we provide value, and that aligns to what they want and not just how we push them through a process. After all, isn't it about helping customers get what they want? Second, value is a discussion and not just a business case. Whatever way you look at ROI, consider it as a different part of your metrics. Don't make it more than it needs to be, just figure out a somewhat different equation. Third, remember that every group that you're selling to within a company perceives value in a different way. Marketing versus finance versus procurement versus IT and etc. Each has a different lens that they look at value through whenever you're selling something to them. You are so often trying to make not just a customer happy, but a committee of customers internally that are happy. Ian says explain the payback with two basic metrics that have stood the test of time. 1, cover your costs in X amount of time, and 2, what is the average ROI? Got a question? Send me an email to shark@kennethkinney.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. I'm always working on providing value to you, so join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.